Hello and good morning to all. I welcome you to lecture number 3 on solid mechanics. In the previous lecture, we had seen how the particular that is the forces are analyzed and how they are resolved and how they come to a particular stage, that is P, the axial force or the compressive force, tau, the shear force, mx, the bending moment. Now, we have also seen that what are the effects that we have to study of the load that is acting on the component or the member where the force is acting. The basic purpose of studying solid mechanics is to ensure whatever the structure that we are studying should be safe against the maximum internal effects that may be produced by a single load or a two directional force, or it may be a combination of a shear force, bending moment, and the axial or the compressive force. Now, here, what is the effect of the particular force on the component that we will see with reference to the particular that is the simple stress. Now, the simple stress. What is stress? We will see how we have to calculate the different stresses that are acting on the element. First, the basic problem for an engineer is the selection of the material. There are various types of material. The classification of the material is done into two, that is the ductile and the brittle material. We will not go in detail, we will go in detail when we go for the stress strain diagram. Now, to suggest the proper material, I told you in the previous class, that we have to select the material from the design data handbook. It is a book which gives you the details of all the materials that we are using in mechanical engineering. Basically, we have seen that the materials are classified into two, that is ductile and brittle. Whatever the form of material may be there, all engineering materials are elastic in nature. What do you mean by that? When we say elastic material, we have to see that what is the effect of the force that is acting on the member or the component. As we have seen that every force acting on the element, we have to see that there is a deformation that is occurring in the element. The purpose here is to see that whatever the component we are designing should perform its function efficiently without failure. For this purpose, it is essential to determine the strength, stiffness, and the other properties of the material. Now, the basic definition of stress. Stress can be defined in various. Generally, we say when a human being is under stress, we say the person who is under stress is unstable. Same is the case with the material. When there is a stress acting on the element, there are changes in the properties of the material. To define stress, stress is defined as a resistance to external forces. It is measured in terms of force exerted per unit area. In practice, the word stress has two meanings. One is force per unit area, or the intensity of stress generally is expressed as unit stress. Stress is also defined as the total internal forces within a single member. Generally, it is called as the total stress. Basically, there are two types of stresses. One is the normal stress and the other is the shear stress. We had seen in the figure in the cut section that the normal stress is the stress which acts normal to the stressed surface under a consideration. The shearing stress which acts parallel to the stress surface, which also called as the shearing stress, which is along the surface of the component. Further, we can say that there are two axes we have seen in the one dimensional x axis. When we go for two dimensional, it is x y direction, two axes mutually perpendicular to each other. And 3D, we have seen three directions, that is x, y, and z, mutually perpendicular directions. Now, when the force, external force, is acting along the major axis, we say that along the x-axis, it is along the x-axis, we say it is a stress along the major axis. When external forces acting on a member are parallel to its major axis and the member is of constant cross section, and the resultant internal stresses are likewise parallel to the axis. Such forces are called as the axial forces, and the stresses due to these forces along the cross section of the member are referred as the axial stresses. Now, to begin with, we have seen that the force may be coming out from the member, the force may be going in to the member. So these type of forces are also related to the type of stresses that are considered. So in that, when we say that is the force that is acting or coming out from the member is called the tensile force. Now, when we go for that effect of the tensile force, we say that the stresses occurring to this tensile force is called the tensile stresses. Now, what is tensile stresses? When a pair of axial pull on a member and it tends to stretch or elongate the member, they are said to be the tensile forces, and they produce the axial tensile stresses internally in the member on the planes lying perpendicular to the or normal to the axis. Now, this is a type of stress where we can say that it is elongating the body. If the elongation is there, we say that there is a increase in length. Now, this is called the tensile stress on the material. Now, in this slide, we see three figures, figure A, figure B, and figure C. We have seen the tensile stress. Now, figure A represents the tensile stress. What is the tensile stress? We say that when two forces acting along the axis tend to stretch the element. Now, if you take a cross section, we see that at any cross section, the forces acting will be same. That is the first tensile stress. The figure B, we are saying that the forces P are going into the element along the axis. So this is the compressive force. Now, what does the effect of the compressive force? It tries to compress the element. Due to this, we say again the stresses will be acting on the element. And these stresses are called the compressive stresses, and they will be same throughout the length of the cross section of the element. The figure C. Now what is the difference between figure C and figure A and B? Now here we have seen that the forces are not passing through the axis. They are parallel to the axis, major axis. Now what do you mean by that? If you consider a force that is acting in the figure 3, it is slightly parallel to the axis. What is the effect of this? This will try to twist the element, which will be parallel to the major axis. Now the effect of this, what is the effect of this? It will see that there will be a movement. If you consider that the element, it will try to twist or it will try to shear. So this represents the shearing force. Now based on this, we can say that there will be a shear stress acting on the element. So these are just a schematic diagram where we have seen the application may be, I told you, for any practical example we can go for the tensile stress, the compressive stress and the shear stress. So we will see in the next slide what is the shear stress and what is the effect of the shear stress acting on the element. Now the compressive stresses. When a pair of axial forces push into the member and they try to shorten or compress the member, then they are called the compressive forces, which we have seen in the figure B. And whatever the total axial force, compressive force that is acting on the element produces axial compressive stress internally in the member on a plane perpendicular to the normal to its axis, which is shown partially in figure A and B. The stresses will be only the direction of the arrows will change. The next is the shear stress. When a pair of axial forces are not passing through the axis of the member, we have seen the forces are parallel to the axis, they are not passing through the axis of the member. Then the forces tries to slide the member parallel to the axis, causing the shear force. And this shear force produces the shear stresses on the component by shearing along the axis of the member as shown. Now what is the basic difference in the three stresses? We have seen tensile stress tries to elongate the member, the compressive stresses tries to compress the member, and the shear stresses tries to shear or tries to twist the member along the axis of the major axis. Now these are the basic things that we have to see when we go for the study of the stresses in an element. Now these are the basic stresses that we have to study for the concept of the solid mechanics. Now we have seen what is the stress, what are the tensile stresses, what are the compressive stresses, what are the shear stresses. Now basically when we go for designing, we have to see that the stress is to be determined. Now these stresses usually are also defined that the load acting per unit area. So when we come to the units of the stress, we have to see that the units of the stresses in SI system for these type of stresses. What is stress? Stress is, we will see further again in the simple stress, that sigma is equal to P by A, where P is the axial force and capital A is the cross section area. So we have to see what are the units for the stress that is occurring in an element. Now all the three stresses, we can say that is the tensile stress, the compressive stress and the shearing stress, all are nothing but the stress is defined as the load per unit area. Based on that, the unit of the stress are Newton per meter square, or it is Pascal denoted by capital P suffix A, or it is also given as meganewton per meter square, which is also known as megapascal. Now when we go for the conversion, 1 meganewton per meter square is equal to 1 megapascal, which is also equal to 1 into 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. This is nothing but 1 Newton per mm square. Also, the units are given in gigapascal. 1 gigapascal is equal to 1000 megapascal, which is equal to 1000 Newton per meter square, which is equal to 1 kilonewton per mm square. So these are the general units for the stress that are occurring in the element. All the stresses are having the same unit, that is Newton per mm square or Newton per meter square or Pascal or megapascal or gigapascal. So we will be seeing in the next slide how to apply these units or how to determine the stress in an element. Now in the figure we see that two bars are of equal length are hanging with in a support. They are carrying a load. Bar 1 is carrying 500 Newton, bar 2 is carrying 5000 Newton. Now let us consider that the bar is made up of same material or it is having the different material and is suspended from a common support. If we know nothing about these bars, what we can say that due to the load that is acting, both are under tensile stress. Both are carrying a load. One is thinner, one is we can say that is having more dimension. Now in that, from the figure we see that the bar 2 is stronger because it carries a larger load compared to the bar 1 which carries a less load. But in this case, when we are comparing, we have to see we should have the common basis for comparison. Here we are not knowing what is the material for the bar. We are not knowing the dimensions of the bar. Dimensions means we are knowing the length, but what is the diameter of bar 1, what is the diameter of the bar 2, and in that case we require some common things for the comparison of the bar. Now let us assume that both the bars are of same material. If both the bars are of same material, we will say that bar 2 is stronger than bar 1. But we are not comparing them. We are just seeing the figure and telling that the bar 2 is stronger than bar 1 because it carries more load. Now if we consider in this case the cross section of the bar. Suppose bar 1 has a cross sectional area of 100 mm square and bar 2 has a cross sectional area of 1000 mm square, then we have the common basis for comparing the material. Now when we compare, what are the things that we are going to compare, that we'll see in the next slide. So we can say that these are the basic things, that some common thing is required when we go for the comparison of any material. Now this will be required for the two things, that is, we can say the cross section of the area, the property of the material, or the material from which the bars are made. If these are known, then and then only we can compare the material or the stresses that are occurring in the element. If we consider the bar is of same material and if the dimensions are now known, we can compare what is the stress in the element. We have seen the stress sigma is equal to capital B by A, the cross section area. Now if sigma 1 is the stress in bar 1 and sigma 2 is the stress in bar 2, we can calculate sigma 1 is equal to 500 Newton divided by 100 mm square, that is the cross sectional area, which is equal to 5 Newton per mm square. Similarly, for bar 2, sigma 2 is equal to 5000 Newton per 1000 mm square, the cross section area. Again we get the value, that is 5 Newton per mm square. Now from this, whatever the assumption we had made that bar 2 is stronger is nullified or is not accepted. When we have the common platform for comparing, we see that both are having the same stress. Now this stress depends on the cross sectional area. Not only the load that is acting, not only the we can say the size of the bar or the cross sectional area, we see that we have to compare these with a common guideline that will be studying when we go for any application for a studying the details of the. Now here we see that bar 1 and bar 2 both have the same strength. When we go for the comparison, the unit strength of the material is usually defined as the stress in material. The stress is expressed symbolically as sigma. Sigma is equal to P by A, which we have seen in the previous slide, that sigma 1 is equal to 500 by 100, where P is the applied force, A is the cross section of the bar. This will represent the stress accurately at all the points in the cross section. The condition under which the stress is constant or uniform is known as the simple stress. Now in this slide we have seen that the force is acting downward, so it tries to elongate the member. So this will be the tensile stress. Now if you want to study the compressive force, if we invert the figure and if the arrows are going into the bar, then naturally the stress will be a compressive stress. The calculations will remain same, only instead of sigma 1, sigma 2, we can say sigma 1T for the tensile, sigma 1C for the compressive, and sigma 2C for the compressive. So these are nothing but the stress that we are calculating, that is simple stress that we are calculating in case of a member. Now all these effects are due to the forces that are acting on the element. Not only the forces, but the direction of the forces, on which plane they are acting, they give you the not only the direction but also the direction of the forces which are acting on the element will give you the basic requirement. So we have understood the basic concept of the tensile stress and the compressive stress. Now the third stress is the shearing stress. What is shearing stress, that we'll see in the next slide. Shearing stress differs from both tensile and the compressive stress. Shearing stress is caused by the forces acting along or parallel to the area of the resisting forces. We have seen the tensile and the compressive stresses are caused by the forces acting perpendicular to the area on which they act. Shearing stress is produced whenever the applied force or the applied load causes one section to slide the part to the adjacent section. With the example of the rivet, we can see what is the shear stress across its cross-sectional area. So we can see that in rivet, when two forces are acting on an element, how the shear stress occurs and where it occurs on the element. This slide shows a simple example of a rivet in which two plates are connected by a rivet. The force P is acting in opposite direction. So in this case, what is the effect of the force P acting on the element? Now here the bar, that is the rivet, and the forces acting are along the cross section of the element. What is the effect of this? This will try to shear the element at the interface of the two plates. That is called the shearing stress. Now in this we have to see what is the effect of the shear stress that is acting on the rivet. Here also the shear stress is denoted by tau, which is equal to P by A, where P is the applied force and A is the area. Now here A is not the cross sectional area, it is the projected area. We have to see what is the area on which particular, that is the force is acting. The force is acting along the length of the rivet, that is twice the thickness of the plate. So in that case, when we say the area here will be referred to as A will be equal to 2 times T into D, that is the projected area. That is the basic difference between the shear stress and the previous two stresses that we have seen, which are, we can say, that is the compressive stress and the tensile stress. Now we have to see what is the difference between the shear stress and the basic difference here is regarding the cross-sectional area. Here in shear stress we are considering the projected area, and in the compressive stress and the tensile stress we are considering the cross-sectional area of the part itself. So these are the things that we have to consider when we go for considering the shear stress on the element. In the previous case we have seen the three types of the forces and the three types of the stresses: the compressive stress, tensile stress and the shear stress. There are more stresses again that we have to consider when we go designing a component, that is the bearing stress and the bending stress. Now what is the bearing stress? Bearing stress is similar to the above stresses. This type of stress occurs when there is a loading on the element and there is a relative motion between the two parts. What are the examples where we can see in this case, when we can say that the example is a quarter pin? Quarter pin, we can say that is fixed, but there is a relative motion between the two parts. Maybe you can take example where we are using the quarter pin in a cycle pedal. In that there is a rotational force and there is a resistance which is being offered by the axis or the axle of the puddler where we are rotating the sprocket. Same is the case when we go for a knuckle joint. In that a knuckle pin which has got a knuckle pin where it is used, or knuckle joint where we are using it, it is the connection of the tractor trailer where we use a pin, that is a knuckle joint pin. This is also subjected to the bearing stress where, because it is having a relative motion between the, we can say the spigot and the eye. So the eye or the, we can say that is the for the each of the element. Similarly, it can be also studied in screw jack when there is a relative motion when we are lifting. There is different types of the stresses of the element, and we can see that there is a relative motion as the shaft moves in the bearing. Third is the journal and the bearing where we are using the sliding contact bearing, which is the upper part. There we say that is the bearing stress. The other is the bending stress. Again, when we go for designing, we have to see what is the shearing stress and the bending stress of the component so that the component should not fail. Now bending, it is the effect of all the forces acting, or all this combination of the forces will give either the bending stress or the bearing stress or the shearing stress on the element. Now to conclude the lecture, we can say that today we have seen what are the basic type of the stresses, how the stress is being calculated, where we require that is the load and the cross sectional area. Also we have seen there should be a common platform when we go for determining the stresses. In the next class we will be seeing the simple strain and what is the effect of these stresses on the element or the component that is under stress. Now for this we have to go for an experimental study which can be studied with help of a graph. For the stress strain graph we will be seeing, and we will also study the simple strain which is occurring in the element. So thank you. We'll see you in the next lecture for the simple strain and its calculation. Thank you.